Welcome to the Outlaw Radio Show. My name is Zach Adams, and I pastor a church located just outside of Athens, Georgia. The name of the church is Calvary 316. Our Sunday service is at 10:30. If you're local, come hang out with us. If you're looking for a church you can participate with online, we live stream our service 10:30 every Sunday morning. Check out our YouTube channel, which is calvary316.live. You can learn all about the church by visiting our website, calvary316.com. I am joined, as always, by the cast of characters. Let's start with the man that needs no introduction, Mr. Creighton Vaughn. How are you?
I am doing well.
Kind of going with the beanie look today.
I am going
beanie,
with beanie.
Flannel, very wintry.
Well, we are getting a winter storm this
supposedly.
weekend.
We'll see.
Yeah, we will see if it actually happens. I'm getting ready as is because it's been too cold for me for weeks. And so the idea of getting snow is just abhorrent to me. I'm not pumped.
I don't think we'll get snow, but there is a chance for some good ice, and that's dangerous around these parts because, A, we're not equipped for any of this stuff, but it causes tree limbs to snap and our power grid to go down, and it causes issues. Where are you going?
Okay.
I mean, I got to switch to like other people here. You getting up and moving.
Yeah,
Where are you going?
Interesting, guys. I need to change the ISO on your camera because you're too dark.
Because I'm too dark.
Yes, you're too dark. So
Okay,
I was
well,
going to change the ISO on your camera, but I was trying to be, subtle about it.
Well, there's no way to be subtle about it.
So
Because
I'm going to do that now. We're on the wide. Introduce the guys while I change your camera.
There's some context. All right. Also joined, we've got Dear Daddy. How are you?
Fantastic.
Now you've been busy over the last week. To say, tell the audience what's gone down, what you've been doing, and then give the audience a little bit of instruction, just with regards to steps moving forward and how people can rally around and help the Outlaw Radio Show.
So some psychopaths decided to never monitor the comments on the Outlaw Radio Show, and I accidentally found them, hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds.
To be fair, Justin's going to dive in here.
Yes. To be fair, nobody watches YouTube on their computers anymore. Everybody does it from their phones, and you don't see any of the comments from your phone.
Yeah, so if you go into YouTube Studio on a mobile device, there are like 3 comments on Outlaw Radio. If you go into YouTube Studio on a PC or a desktop, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments
that we've never seen and had no idea about.
Nothing about.
So sorry to you that commented and we never responded.
We never saw them.
We never saw them.
Yeah,
YouTube
that's our
is an
bad.
imperfect
So
system, and
we
we are
found
imperfect
them
people using it.
last Wednesday.
Wait, you say hundreds and hundreds of comments. Why so?
Because I replied to every single one of them.
Now, why is it important to reply to a comment?
Because YouTube's algorithm rates us as a channel. And when we are unresponsive, we get shadow banned. And
explain that for those that don't know what that means.
So basically, YouTube, as Google bots crawl YouTube, they are looking at things like channels that respond to comments or don't respond to comments, and you receive a rating. And so we had a very, very bad rating, which is insane because with such a terrible rating, we still had hundreds and hundreds of comments. So people are still finding our videos, even though we had a terrible rating within the algorithm, which is extremely promising.
Which means, in layman's terms, that means that like someone that has no idea about Outlaw Radio, but is going to YouTube and are like, hey, I'm interested in this topic, and they jot it in.
Yeah.
You're going to have automatically video suggestions based on their search of what to watch to answer their question or their particular interest. The algorithm is rating channels. If you're not, you're never going to show up on those people's pages. So this is not like a measure of self-promotion.
No, not at all.
This is more of just kind of how the algorithm works while you're on YouTube, of which we're learning a lot about.
And our entire point of putting forth this show is to reach people about Jesus. So if we're not doing a good job of stewarding our channel, we're not doing a good job of reaching people about Jesus. So we're going to do a much better job of that moving forward. We will be monitoring comments. We will be replying, conversing back and forth. And your guys' comments really help us a lot because our show is not, we don't spend any money to promote this show. That's not what it's about. We're just bringing God's word to people that are searching for it. And so we have no budget. But you guys commenting pulls our videos up in the feed on the algorithm organically. And so we really appreciate your comments. Keep commenting, and we will be more diligent about answering your comments.
Let me add kind of one small wrinkle to that. Yes, Outlaw Radio is not its own financial entity. Outlaw Radio is a ministry of Calvary 316, our church, the church that we all go to. We don't have a midweek service. I'm not saying that this replaces a midweek, but this is a resource, a ministry resource, not just internally to bless our folks, but is also part of an outreach ministry to reach other folks. And so Calvary 316 does pay for the gear, pays for my time. Creighton gets a small stipend for some of the work that he does. So there are expenses. You don't have, you have to own a domain. There are things that are involved with that, of which just the church has always been behind it and supported it, etc. What is nice is we've never asked for money. There's never been a pitch or an appeal hey, help us buy X, Y, and Z. In fact, the cameras that are in here, so the only thing that stays in here other than the table and a few of the pieces of hardware are the microphones. The cameras themselves get transported every Sunday back and forth from the church. So these are the same cameras. If you go to calvary316.live, you watch our live stream, these are the same cameras that are also doing Outlaw Radio. And we move them back and forth because that, I think, is being a good steward of resources. But the show's not particularly monetized. It would be nice for the show to cover some of its costs. We're not asking for your money. This is what's great. We are asking for YouTube's money. Not your money, but YouTube's money. Because if a show begins to gain traction, rises up in the algorithm, there are more views, then YouTube will start paying you for it. So we're not asking you for money, but we are asking and kind of making an appeal here. Help us grow the profile of the Outlaw Radio Show. Not because any of us want to get famous, by all means. Maybe Justin.
I'm okay with being a potentially up and coming.
Potentially.
I don't want to be famous, but I would like to be rich.
There you go. But to be able to cover the costs would be nice. For the show so that it's not a burden to the church at all. Again, the easiest ways to do that are actually things you can help us with. And so we're not asking for money, but we are asking for simple things. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to our channel, subscribe. And then tell other people about the show so they can subscribe, because the amount of subscribers you have plays a role in your profile and whatnot. Also, put on your notifications so that when we do go live, you get a notification. Ironically, and again, if you think there's anything private on your phone that's not, YouTube knows that. It knows everything that you're doing. What are some other ways that people, you can like a video?
Sharing it.
Sharing it's a huge one.
Sharing the videos across different social media platforms is huge. YouTube, Google love to see that. That validates us as a channel.
Again, and so in layman's terms, it's if you're watching on YouTube, copy the link, go to your Facebook page or your Instagram account or whatnot.
Your Twitter.
Or your
drop
X.
them. Because they're not just looking, that doesn't just help us in terms of other people actually watching our videos. But what it does is it's when YouTube is scrolling through their videos, they can see where and how many times a video has been shared. And so the more times it's been shared, the more likely YouTube is to recommend it to other people.
The bot says, oh, on this topic, this video's answering people's questions.
Yes.
We're going to raise this up in the profile. So if there's somebody and again, man, I'm looking for real dudes that love Jesus, that don't talk Christianese, but are honest about their faith. And I want that encouragement. That's what they're going to find here. And I used all those words because now YouTube knows them. Because it searches all of that stuff. And so we've had a week of learning, maybe really 2 weeks of learning how all this works, and just really appreciate Vinny for taking the lead on a lot of that. We're also replicating a lot of the same stuff with our Calvary 316 YouTube channel. But you guys can help us a lot. If you like the show, think of it this way. If you like the show, it probably means that there are other people that will like the show. If you're blessed by the show, if you learn things from the show, this probably means that there are other people that are searching. And they're searching. And if they're searching, there are certain things you can do to help their answers be found. And I think that's a real simple way of answering that. So anybody want to add anything to that?
I think we handled it pretty good. Good to go.
So let's start off tonight with an X, Y of Z's posts. So we'll throw up the graphics up there. I posted something in response to a hot topic, something that has really, it's very alarming. It's quite a deal, and that is what happened this past Sunday. The post is I posted on the 19th. Don Lemon is a demon! ! That's the post. So what's the context here? Let me read just a little summary in case you have no idea. There was a recent controversy. So Don Lemon used to be on CNN, was a high-profile anchor, kind of their primetime slot. He, now an independent journalist, covered an anti-ICE protest. Again, this is all happening in Minnesota. If you've seen the news, you're aware of this. But what makes this unique is that there was a group of people that went to a church. They interrupted an active, in-progress church service. The name of the church is Cities Church. It's in St. Paul, Minnesota. Again, this happened on Sunday. Don Lemon was there with his film crew. Now, he says it was organic. That's nonsense. He was there early. There's video of him with Starbucks coffee and donuts for the protesters. The protest was organized by local activists, this kind of radical justice network. They stormed the evangelical church mid-service. By the way, it's a Southern Baptist church. Mid-service, they were accusing, so this is why they targeted the church. They were accusing one of its pastors of secretly working with ICE to facilitate immigration raids and deportations. They're basically accusing one of the church leadership of being an ICE agent. They interrupted the worship. They shouted at congregants. You can actually see the live stream of the church.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. They're demanding publicly the pastor's resignation. By the way, I don't know if you've seen the video of him being interviewed by Don Lemon mid-service. I thought he handled himself very well. Kudos to that guy. Don Lemon claimed that his ties to ICE contradicted Christian values. Don Lemon, by the way, is a practicing homosexual. The incident's live stream, it sparked widespread outrage. Lemon, who was present filming the event, has been accused by critics, Trump administration, of not just reporting on the protests, but actively embedding with the agitators. You continue on. This is the part I wanted to get to. In a subsequent podcast, Don Lemon, trying to justify his actions, suggested that the church goers were exhibit entitlement, and their entitlement was rooted in white supremacy. He accused them of being homophobic, though no evidence of homophobia was tied to the church. Also, there were other celebrities that criticized him. There's been a DOJ investigation opened into Don Lemon and the people that were involved with this, ironically citing a piece of legislation that was related to the KKK. Don Lemon is black, so there is a measure of irony. It was called the Ku Klux Klan Act, which prohibits conspiracies to intimidate or terrorize based on civil rights. This was a DOJ investigation into the protesters vowing charges for what they deemed as a raid on a place of worship. Before I even get to the topic tonight, out of curiosity, how would we have handled that? Like if this had happened at Calvary 316 this past Sunday, like how would that have gone down? I've thought about this. I have a few thoughts. I just kind of want you guys, you've not been asked this. We've not even talked about this. your unfiltered. Like, be careful how we handle this. But like, how would that have gone down?
I guess. I'd be surprised that they found our little church.
Dude, okay, you say that. City's church is smaller than us.
Are they?
Oh, it's a small church, been around for about 10 years. You look at the live stream, there's
It's
like
not packed
20
out.
people there at the most. And it was, honestly, it was old men, young women, children. Like, there were no like middle-aged men around.
I would. It depends on what Sunday. If it was a potluck Sunday,
Let's just say if it was this past Sunday.
upcoming Sunday,
This past Sunday.
I would very nicely.
I know
and-
you're going to say that this Sunday they should be careful because there could be a lot of ice around.
I would very. Boo.
I stole your
Yeah,
joke.
you did. I would very nicely and forcibly ask them to leave. Even though we are a church, there are things we are still have the ability to trespass people. And that comes with legal consequences. And that would probably be the route I would take. You don't get to interrupt someone's religious freedoms for your political beliefs.
So when you say, like, if let's say it had happened, so again, little sidebar, Justin is one of the people that is kind of relegated to some of our security. He's monitoring cameras. You would have seen this coming.
I would have seen it coming. I would have stopped it immediately, or
You would have gotten up.
I would have gotten up, and I am not by any means a small person.
You could have filled the doorway.
Right. And there's an issue between your First Amendment rights and your ability to interrupt people that are just there to worship Jesus. And
Your right to swing your fist stops at the end of my nose.
right. And I think it's a very, I am a very statist constitutionalist, and there comes a point when you are interfering with other people's rights. That's when you are in the wrong. And I don't take that lightly. And I don't know, I would act calmly, but at the same time forcibly. And I'm not going to go easy. I guess that would be the way I'd put it.
What about you, Vinny?
I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
All right. You know what? I'm not going to push that. That's just an easy.
There are 20 reasons you shouldn't do that at our church.
There's an easy.
Yeah.
We'll just leave that as an easy subliminal warning.
I've got about 60 to 100.
40.
Yeah,
But
there's a whole
On a given Sunday.
Yeah.
there's an Under Oath song that was on an EP back in the day called "I Got 10 Friends and a Crowbar That Say You Ain't Gonna Do Jack."
Yeah. Yeah, I just wouldn't do that at our church.
And so the thing that I think about is like if they were to like get into the front door and then get in through the double doors, who do they meet first? Yeah, that's right.
Hopefully Jesus.
Who do they meet first? Hopefully not Jesus. Hope we don't shoot on sight.
We do believe in the last rites of evangelism.
But generally speaking, we have
the first person
like-
you meet in our church is Jesus.
three or four. We have 3 or 4.
You can bring up your complaints about our strat with Jesus himself.
You told me to put on 4, and we have 3 or 4 guys who sit in the back right next to the door. Sometimes they are either outside of the doors or in the foyer. But like it would have been an
They'll pray with
immediate
you.
confrontation, which probably would not have gone great for anybody involved.
Definitely not for Don Lemon.
Definitely not for Don Lemon, because like how quickly, if you were to walk up, you know, say Neil is sitting in the chair, they walk through the door, they are being
And Neil's a pseudonym, by the way.
obviously
Yeah.
they're being immediately disruptive, and then like they push past Neil, pseudonym.
Oh, it's not gonna.
At
It's
that
not.
point,
It's not gonna happen.
At that point, every guy who sits in the back table is like, "Oh, Neil just got assaulted. It's a fight on sight."
Oh,
Which is not necessarily the best option, but I do think it's what would happen.
Which
There
is
are-
what.
Like
There
we
are women and children. And we
right
will
at
protect
that point.
So okay, no,
At
no.
that point, at what point?
Okay.
There's
Pause because Vinny just touched on something because I thought I saw a post. I tried to find it where some guy was like, "Hey, if your church right now is immediately reverting to like strategies of dealing with protesters entering your church versus like loving people like Jesus, you have a church problem. And I'm like, dude, that is the most naive, asinine thing I've ever heard. Because here's the deal. We live in an age of church shootings, of violence, of persecution. Like, I don't know okay, they just want to come in and peacefully protest. I don't know that. No one at the front doors know that. You didn't like, for example, most protests in America, you actually have to submit an application to go protest to do your march. And because there is freedom of speech, we want to protect your ability to protest. You're given a certificate, not a certificate, but you're given a license or permission, a permit, and able to go do that. If you show up at a church, and you're doing it in such a way that the people in the church have no idea why you're there or what you're doing. As shepherds, one of the number one jobs of a shepherd is to, yes, we're to feed the sheep, but if the sheep are dead, I can't feed them. The first job of a shepherd is to protect the sheep
from wolves.
And so, I don't know, we live in a crazy world. I don't know if you come storm. I don't know what your intentions are or aren't. I don't know if you're armed or you aren't. You've decided to enter into a place of worship. And if you're using profanity and you're hurling insult
and screaming,
that is exhibiting volatile behavior, which will be met, I think, justifiably so, with a response that we're being attacked and thus innocents need to be protected.
From my standpoint, you will be met with violence. You will be met with violence. You will, whether that, I don't want to go too far with this, but you will be met with violence and you will not like it.
Dude, in one of the videos,
and we will tell you about Jesus because we love you.
Yeah. But it'll be
as you gurgle your way out.
As the ambulance is on the way, there's, in one of the videos I saw, it's of one of the protesters. He's filming himself as he's walking around, and he walks up to 3 young women who look like they're between 15 and maybe 20, and just start screaming. And I'm like, how is that guy not getting absolutely curb stomped?
There were no men in the church. That's why.
My gosh.
I saw Jason Whitlock.
Hey, turn the other cheek. Also, that guy would have gotten curb stomped.
Jason Whitlock made the comment, Don Lemon would have never gone and tried that crap in a black church or a Hispanic church.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
So where I sit, and not to give away any secrets, I can see everybody, and anybody new that comes in, I am watching you. Not
like the police.
Not because
everywhere.
Not because
every move
you're gonna get us copyright strike.
Not with that tone.
It's my nature, and I think that's as a man, one, but as someone that's been called to be part of the church, my calling is also to defend that church. And short of the government invading and persecuting us because we are the church, you trying to exhibit your personal and political beliefs inside and towards other people is unacceptable to me. And that will be met with an equal and greater force than you thought.
Now, if somebody came into our church and in the middle of the service stood up and started protesting something, and I'm behind the pulpit, I would very calmly say, "Excuse me, we're so glad you're here, and Jesus loves you, and man, I want to hear what you're having to say, but there are a time and a place for this, and right now you're choosing the wrong time." And so if you wouldn't mind just going to the back of the sanctuary and just chilling out when I'm done, by all means, me and a few others would love to sit down and hear anything and everything you have to say. If you don't want to do that, then you will be physically removed from the building and the police called. We don't want to cause you any harm, but you're disrupting something that's happening. And you're making other people uncomfortable as a result. And neither of those things are appropriate in their time and place. We want to hear everything you have to say. We want to respect your right to say them. but there's a time and a place. The Bible says that. So you can either choose to step up and walk to the back and wait, or the men that are moving your direction right now will help you out the front door. And then they'll sit with you until the police arrive, and we'll sort it out after the service. Again, there's not a call to violence. There's not a, again, and again, within the context, again, you got to also realize that, that we're a church located in such a place that there's not like you would have to really have a negative, malcontent, such you have to really
target us to come and get us.
Right. So it's not like we're an inner city church where you kind of also just naturally dealing with homeless people or people high out of their mind that stumbled in because it's an open door that you kind of have to deal with. That's not us. And there's various other contexts that there's policies, and I get that. But the reason I bring up the topic, I thought this was interesting. This was kind of a flyby.
Well, and I'm a Sunday school teacher, and my daughters work in the nursery. So my family is very much involved with the innocence of our church. So you come barging in and give those children a nightmare scenario. I'm there to protect them kids.
Right.
Those kids are not going to have a bad time at church.
Yeah.
Not while I'm there.
Yeah. No, you'll die quickly and will be removed quietly.
Yeah.
Mop bucket will follow you out the front door as if it never happened.
Very quietly.
You're right. The reason I bring up the topic, this was a fascinating conversation. If you'd like to join the conversation, leave a comment. We will reply to it.
We will
find it and reply to it. But we'd love to get your thoughts on it. My guess is that this cut will get released. Somebody's phone already buzzed. Any comments already out there?
Yes, we have some comments on Facebook. Teresa has said she was wondering about the same thing when she heard it on the news. How would we have handled it?
Teresa,
longtime friend of you and I both.
Great. Teresa E. Okay.
She also said protect the flock. We have a bunch of comments on YouTube. Frank, Sarah, and Mark all got to know each other. So
having a conversation,
saying hello,
great.
whatnot. And then Sarah also said, I don't know you, that's my purse, which is hilarious to me. And then from Jaina, we have, God is not going to send someone to protest and disrupt our worship service. It's demonic interference with our worship with God, which is interesting.
So, right. So God's not orchestrating this. This is an attack of the enemy. Let's diagnose it as such. It's not like someone's coming in saying, blowing the heresy whistle. Zach's saying something wrong and everyone's looking around like, about time someone called him out. Praise the Lord, they sent the prophet.
Because if he does, we will.
We would have already dealt with it.
We would already done.
No, that's such a so the very nature of it, which is why when I saw it all, I posted Don Lemon is a demon. Mm-hmm. The dude's demon possessed. That's the post. He's demon possessed, and that, take that perspective. He even said, I don't know if you saw one of the interviews, who even said, that's not the Christianity that I practice.
Of course it's not.
I almost lost my mind. Anyway, so I brought up the topic because it segues into a larger topic I want to address tonight. I want to talk about. And that is this whole thing with immigration, because again, this is what motivated. It was ICE, immigration. This is what's dominating the news. So I want to talk about immigration. I want to talk about the history of immigration in America. I also want to talk about, I think, the deeper issue, because no one wants to talk about the deeper issue. What's actually happening here? Why do you have a segment of people so passionate about defending this? Who cares? There's a whole nother, I don't care. Come here legally, cool. We want to have a conversation about how many people, I just don't like the illegal thing because we can't track that. And there's residual, our society can't sustain that. There are conversations, but what is the issue? I've been really over the last couple years, like wrestling with like what's below it. And I think the answer is very interesting because I've never heard anyone really talk about it. And I think the issue boils down to altruism and colonialism and some very interesting things, which we're going to get to tonight. We're going to unpack this all, so hold tight. And then we're also going to talk about the Christian response and like what is our angle? Because again, there's an irony that Don Lemon attacked a Southern Baptist convention church, accused them of white supremacy and being anti-immigrant, not understanding the incredible impact the Southern Baptist Convention makes on the world's immigrants. It's just the height of ignorance. So we're going to get to all of this. But before we do, we got a segment tonight. The first one of the year. It's titled, it's IFS. It stands for Intersecting Faith and Science with Pope C, Pope Creighton Vaughn. So the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. So I am nervous about this one. This is going to be interesting. At least I hope. Today I want to talk about IVF, which for those of you who don't know is in vitro fertilization. And if you have ever done in vitro fertilization or been on either side of the equation there, I might step on some toes. I do apologize, kind of. But so for those of you who don't know, do you guys know what IVF stands for? In vitro fertilization, what it is, how it works?
What do those names mean? Because I don't know Latin.
That's great. In vitro fertilization means in glass fertilization. So literally it's in glass. And basically what happens is a scientist goes into a woman's womb and extracts a set of unfertilized eggs. They put them in glass. They then introduce sperm to those eggs and create a bunch of fertilized embryos and then implant those embryos into a woman in hopes of a viable pregnancy. And people turn to this when they have issues conceiving naturally.
Which we can acknowledge that the technology is incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
And for people that have struggled to conceive, the horizontal polka is not connecting the dots.
Correct.
This has been a wonderful alternative to help people that weren't able to get pregnant with their own stuff.
That is the goal.
What's the horizontal polka?
We'll tell you when you're older.
Okay.
So it is an alternative to the horizontal polka to conceive.
That's a Steve Urkel reference. Did I do that?
I would not
that
call
makes
it.
sense to me. Thank you.
I would not call it a wonderful alternative to the horizontal polka. So we're going to talk about all of the practical.
Let's do it.
Problems. So we're going to start with the sperm. There are all kinds of issues. And so my numbers for this come from, and this isn't a joke, it's donatesperm.com. And on the
That was a solid reference to a website where you get no revenue from.
Hey,
I just thought it was a funny name.
Google tracks all your search history.
I thought about that a little bit too late. I was already halfway through my research before I thought I should have turned on my VPN.
You're going to be getting some weird ads.
I know.
Facebook's going to represent. Yeah, your Facebook reels are screwed.
So at this website, they have some FAQs. One of them is, how do I donate? We all know that one. How often can I donate? What is the minimums for donations are they ask donors to commit to twice a week donations for 6 months, which is a total of 52 donations. And that is minimum. And they pay people for these donations. And in the FAQ, they state specifically that most donors exceed their minimum donations.
How much do you get paid?
So I did not look that up.
Okay.
But
not a relevant question, Spice Daddy.
So they take a minimum of 52 donations from each donor, which here comes the issue with that. Each donation is good for fertilizing more than one egg, obviously, because the eggs are either fertilized, either they, put the eggs in a petri dish and then cover them in the donation, or they do, depending on how all of the things are working out, they may use a very, very tiny syringe, pick up a single sperm cell and inject that directly into the egg. But I think that the more common way is to put the eggs in the petri dish and cover them in the donation and allow fertilization naturally. What that means is that they can use a single donation for multiple fertilizations. And so the question is, how many children can a single donor expect to have if he's given 52 donations at minimum? The guideline is a maximum of 25 live births or 10 to 25 families, which means that if you have one family that uses a donor, and they have a child, even if they're at that 25 birth maximum, if they have already used that donor, they can then go back to that same donor to have another child within 25 families, 10 to 25. These guidelines are not regulated by state or federal anything.
Pretty sure Genghis Khan did the same thing.
We're going to get to people like Genghis Khan. These guidelines are not regulated by a state or federal anything. They are just kind of professional guidelines, which means that each bank decides how often and how much they use any specific sperm donor. Which leads to...
That's horrifying, actually. Dude, I did not know that.
It leads to what are called sibling pods. They are all over the place. They are as large as 200 siblings, half siblings. So one donor having 200 kids just through sperm donation, not including whatever children he has naturally. The largest pods are around 200. There are pods of anywhere from 10 to 50 that are regular. There is a subreddit called "Are Donor Conceived?" And one of the
also
posts
a promotion for something that we don't need to promote.
If you're interested in IVF, you should look into this stuff, which is why I'm giving.
Yeah. Okay.
There's this one of the top posts that I saw was, is anybody here a part of a pod that's not massive? Because all of the posts are about people who are finding pods that are 20, 30 siblings or more.
Now, how are they finding these pods? It's the 23andMe stuff.
23andMe, because
it's like the
genetics are forever. Once you donate your sperm, your genetics are forever. There's no taking that back.
It's all coming back to you.
You can't take yourself out of the database once you're in it.
And it was always appealed like your identity will be concealed forever.
Yes.
No, it won't.
No, it won't. They're going to find you. They're going to find each other.
And they're going to want money at some point.
Or worse. We'll get there. So again, these pods get huge. The worst thing that happens with these pods are pods where it's not a donor who meant to donate their sperm to these. It is, and this happens weirdly more than you would think, is doctor abuses, because there are sociopaths in the IVF world. And what they do is, they have women come in, say, I want to have, seed from this donor, blah, 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 blah. And they go, I got you. And they use their own sperm instead of the donation sperm. This has happened multiple times where a doctor has inseminated 60, 70 women. He hasn't inseminated them. He has implanted fertilized eggs that he inseminated with his seed instead of the donor seed and people find this out years later because their kids will do 23andMe. And they will find, oh, this is my dad. That's the doctor that you said you went to. Not some random donor.
Oh, my gosh.
To the worst one that I heard about while I was doing this research was a woman who went to her reunion after finding a donor pod, a sibling pod. She had gotten, she'd introduced herself to the sibling pod. They had all been inseminated by the same doctor, went back to her high school reunion, was having a conversation with her high school boyfriend, and her high school boyfriend's like, my mom just recently told me that I was donor conceived.
Oh, my.
And the woman's like, who was the doctor? They're half siblings. They dated all through high school. They're half siblings. Wow. And that is not the only time that I saw it. Like that is,
you just got Luke and Leia.
It has a name. It's called accidental incest. And it's a thing that happens.
And you know what we call those
conceived.
people? Somalian.
No, we don't. They do it on purpose.
Sorry, that was a crass joke. I apologize in advance to the comments.
That is just the abuses with the sperm. There's also abuses because sometimes if the woman who wants to have the child either doesn't have a viable egg or doesn't have a viable womb, they will get those donated and or bought.
Surrogate. This is the surrogacy
thing, or donated eggs. And there are lots of stories of women. I saw people talking about how controlling the receiving parent is over their body while they are pregnant with while they are surrogating. I don't know what the word for that is. Surrogating. They want them to be isolated. They don't want them to go anywhere. They want to have full control over what they eat, what they do, because they see that person as an incubator for their child.
Now, that's within that, you have. Are you going to touch on the homosexual components of this?
I wasn't planning on it, but we can.
Because there's a whole bunch of gay dudes
will buy children,
are buying women to make the children.
Yeah.
And the surrogacy thing, and then they get the genetic testing on the kid, and they have some issue.
Oh, and they abort him,
or they just bail on the woman, or they bail on the woman.
Yeah,
this reminds me also of this specific aspect of it. Reminds me of Abraham.
Oh, that's a really good point, because there's that whole argument about the abortion issue where people were wearing the handmaids dresses, and surrogacy is literally the foundation idea of the Handmaid's Tale. That's what the Handmaid's Tale is about men impregnating handmaids because their wives can't get pregnant. It's literally surrogacy.
All right, so bring us to a head here.
Now, here's the deal. All of that are really good reasons not to do IVF. They're not the main reason to not do IVF. The main reason not to do IVF is because of the way that IVF is actually done. And that is that because embryos are delicate and implantation is kind of random, when you go to get IVF done, they harvest somewhere between 12 and 15 eggs from the woman. They fertilize all of them. Approximately half of those will not survive the fertilization process and will not grow into blastocysts or viable embryos. And then of those that do, so say if you start with 12, you get about 6 viable embryos, they'll implant 1 or 2, and then one of those will hopefully become a viable embryo, will become a viable pregnancy, which leaves 5 to 6 fertilized embryos on ice. I was looking it up. Something like 1.8 million embryos a year are created with IVF, and estimates are that about 90% of the embryos created through IVF are either frozen indefinitely or destroyed. About 90% of the 1.8 million embryos created every year are frozen indefinitely or destroyed. Now, if we are being...
Can you pause real quick?
Yes.
Jamie, they might have been from Alabama. Just acknowledging a comment. Just acknowledging a comment. We have a fan that's engaged.
Oh my goodness.
We're participating in,
That's very funny.
Engagement.
So, 1.8 million embryos are created each year for IVF. About 90% of those are frozen indefinitely or destroyed. If we are being consistent with our arguments against abortion,
yes,
100%. If life begins at conception, that means that every year we are creating 1.8 million people and either freezing them indefinitely or destroying them. And that's horrifying.
Yeah, I appreciate the topic because and again, what makes it so heartbreaking is that the technology, for example, if Jessica and I had an issue with conceiving and we didn't want to go the adoption route or whatnot, and we decided hey, let's use some technology to try to help her egg and my seed get together. And the company's hey, we the cost effectiveness, the cost effective approach is we got to do multiples at a time, try out a few, and then the rest are kind of there. I would say absolutely not, because I believe life begins at conception. And I would say it might be more expensive, but I want to do one at a time. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I believe life begins at conception. And we want to use the technology, but acknowledge what life is. And I don't care if it's not financially advantageous. This is the situation. There are court cases where there's been litigation about what to do with the rest of the embryos. where a guy dies. And like in his will, he's like, I don't want more of my kids coming out. There are really, again, I think the larger point here, and I'll let you close it, is that we have not had the right kind of ethical conversations regarding the topic of abortion and then IVF and whatnot, mainly because our society refuses to have the real conversation of conception. And, Roe versus Wade placed it at viability. And then as technology developed, that became a bigger conversation because viability.
We keep pushing viability back every year.
And can you say viability is after conception? I mean, like we have just, the abortion topic has become so convoluted in our culture that we have not had the appropriate conversations ethically. We've avoided them at all costs. Final thought, and then we're going to move on.
Final thought: if you are a Christian and you are having fertility issues, you want to have children, I would encourage you towards adoption. I think that adoption is way better than IVF because there are thousands of children in the adoption system. I think it's currently like 170,000, about half of which, maybe more, are actually, or in the foster system, about half of which, maybe more, are eligible for adoption, because not all kids in foster care are eligible for adoption. If you look at adoption first, look at adoption elsewhere in the world. We have some very good friends who adopted 2 girls from China, and they are fantastic. They have a very happy family. IVF is a very dark market, and there are thousands of kids in the foster care system who need loving families and who need to know the Lord, and they would love for you to adopt them.
So there's no easy segue from that topic back to, hey, the more lighter topic of immigration.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of roll right along. Vinny said controversial topics will raise our profile in the YouTube.
Luckily, you got a pepper poppers coming up.
We do have the pepper poppers coming up, which will be lighthearted. We will at least end the episode with some lightheartedness, Lord willing. Immigration in America is a very interesting topic. So, like, if you look at it through time periods, the colonial early republic period, so like 1607 to 1820, so pre-Civil War, there was really like no policy. The history of immigration in the United States began with European colonization, English, Dutch, Spanish settlers, 17th century. There was, to be acknowledged, forced immigration of enslaved Africans starting around 1619. By the time of independence, 1776, the population of America was 2.5 million, which was mostly of British descent, significant German, Irish communities, but immigration was largely unrestricted. At the federal level, it was left to the states to handle individually. Notable, the Naturalization Act of 1790 established some of the first federal rules which limited citizenship to, quote, free white persons of good character after 2 years of residency. 1798, the Alien and Seditions Act introduced restrictions allowing the president the authority to deport dangerous foreigners, especially during times of war and unrest. The first major wave of immigration, kind of what they call the old immigrants of 1820 to 1880, resulted in 10 million immigrant arrivals, predominantly from Northern and Western Europe. One of the key drivers was the Irish potato famine, which brought 1.5 million Irish to America. There was economic, political unrest in Germany that led to 4 million German immigrants. Post-Civil War, Supreme Court ruled immigration to be a federal matter. That was in 1875. It led to the Page Act, which restricted, of all things, Asian women suspected of prostitution and or convicts. Then 1880 to 1920, post World War, after the Civil War, but right after the World War I, you had the area of Reconstruction, the second major wave. 20 million immigrants shifting from Southern to Eastern Europe. You had 4 million Italians. 2 million Jews. A great illustration of this, Gangs of New York, the movie Gangs of New York. You also had a big influx of Asians, primarily Chinese laborers. You know what they were here for, Justin?
The railroad.
The railroad mines. This was the gold push, California. 1892, Ellis Island was opened as a processing center, would handle 12 million immigrants by 1954. There were additional restrictions. 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act. 1882, the Immigration Act, a head tax. 1891, there was the exclusion of polygamists. It created a federal office. This was dealing with the spread of Mormonism. 1907, there was a, quote, gentleman's agreement that allowed more Japanese immigrants. Immigration Act of 1917 added a literacy test to exclude Asians mostly. Immigration population peaked at 1.3 million in 1907. Again, the illustration here, we've always had an immigration thing with America. America is built on immigrants, and there's been a process by which America has adapted with its population increases, assimilation, etc. Between 1921 and 1965, it's called the quota era, and actually included reduced migration. Following post-World War I nativism, there was the Emergency Quota Act of 1921 that capped immigration at 3% of each nationality of the United States population based on the 1910 census. So whatever the percentage of that nationality that was in America, they would only allow 3% of that number to continue to migrate. Again, keeping American largely white, Northern Western European. The Immigration Act of 1924 reduced that to 2% based on the 1890 census. Border Patrol, U.S. Border Patrol was established in 1924, resulting in a dramatic drop in immigration. From 1920s to the 1930s, there was a huge decrease because of the Great Depression. After World War II, there was some easing that happened. Overall, between 1931 and 1960, there was only 2.5 million immigrants that migrated. The third wave, 65 to 2000, you saw a prioritizing of, quote, family reunification, skilled workers. There was a 20,000 per country limit, but there was 18 million legal entries over those years. Dealing with refugee, we added refugee standards. Things began to rise, and then there was the ongoing reforms. My point here is we've dealt with immigration. This is all what I'm describing, by the way, legal immigration. That doesn't even begin to address illegal immigration, which began in various waves, specifically in the 80s. There's a hot topic about the Somali immigrants. How did they get here? If you look at it, that's not a Republican or Democrat issue. They first started coming in under George Bush the first, and then under Clinton, and then W, and then Obama, and then there has been a wide progression of Somali immigration under our refugee programs. So immigration in America is complicated. It gets more complicated regarding why we let people in, how long they should stay. There have been abuses to the system. We have allowed a huge number of people that are here illegally. We allowed in legally under student visas or under work programs. There's all kinds of there have been agreements in certain times that allowed immigrant populations to act as agricultural labor when there were shortages. We've had agreements with various nations. Again, people want to talk about the immigration issue as if this is a new thing. It's something we've dealt with from the beginning. It is complicated, and what's mind-blowing is that people that are like outraged at ICE raids right now under the Trump administration fail to acknowledge that presently Barack Obama had more deportations than even Trump, and yet we want to pretend this is a new thing. It's not. It's not at all. It is complicated. It is complex. Why is this? Like, what is the root of it? What is driving it? Which we're going to close our episode dealing with. But before we do, what everyone has been waiting for has been the next round of the world famous Pepper Poppers segment with Old Spice Daddy.
What's up, my little pepper poppers? Welcome back. These episodes of Pepper Poppers, we're going to get into something a little new that I've been wanting to do for a while, and it was complicated.
Let's be honest. Your first round of movies and things like that.
Yeah.
Christmas carols.
Yeah, those were pretty easy.
We had a dud with the false teachers.
Yeah, that was a dud.
It was a dud.
Heretics.
The heretics.
Yeah, we're subject to that.
Yeah.
But we're getting back on track. Yeah. Lighthearted.
This is a learning experience.
It is.
So, I'm still learning I'm trying to look at life through my top 10s.
You're not a full-blown podcast star. You're only an up-and-coming.
I'm potential still.
Potential.
Yeah, I don't know if I've crossed the crest of up and coming and potential yet.
Until you start replying to comments on YouTube,
right.
we'll never get there.
You know, we're getting there.
So what do we got? What's the topic? What is this round of Pepper Poppers?
This round of Pepper Poppers.
It's a top 10 list, right?
Top 10. I like doing top 10s. It started back in the early internet days of BuzzFeed News with their top 10s of different things.
Wait a second. Wait, whoa.
I don't even know if they exist anymore.
No, the top 10 list was famous from David Letterman.
Was it?
Yeah, David Letterman.
That's before
would
my
do
time.
the old school top 10s.
I'm going to speak for most millennials and all Zoomers. Who?
You knew what I said when I said BuzzFeed News,
Yes,
right?
I knew what you meant when you said
camera
BuzzFeed.
back this way.
I knew
Camera
top
back.
10s are an internet thing.
Camera
I
back.
don't-
This direction. If you know what I'm talking about, like wasn't it David Letterman that like popularized the top 10 list? We'll get to
Before
that.
my time.
But you know who's bringing it back? Spice Daddy.
Spice Daddy. All right, so this time around, I'm doing my top 10 Christian artists.
How did you whittle that down?
It's been one I've been wanting to do for a while. I am musically impaired, but I enjoy good music, as I think most people in the world are. I
don't know a lot of people that enjoy bad music.
I don't know how to play any musical instrument. I sing like a coyote in a trash compactor. I just have zero musical talent, but I know
That's a good
it.
reference.
I know it when I hear it.
Okay.
And
So what hot sauce are you rolling with?
I'm rolling with one that you picked up on your travels to Oregon.
That's right.
This is a small batch hot sauce.
Small batch.
Small batch. And
Stiller's release.
it's called Anna's Tibetan Hot Sauce. It's a medium spice level. I've never had this before. Don't know what it tastes like. You can check it
And
out.
by the way, if you're Anna and this is your Tibetan hot sauce, leave a comment. We'll reply to it.
Right. I don't know. This is not only a review of my top 10s, but it's a review of hot sauces.
All right, so
This
let's
is
get the
kind of how
hot
it's
sauce
evolved.
first. This is the medium.
So before we get started, so I got my top 3.
When do you do the hot sauce? At the end or the beginning?
At the beginning, before I do it. And I do it in different levels of spicy level, but now I don't know where I'm going with this because I'm getting into the realm of just testing out new hot sauces.
Evolving.
Yeah.
According to your
Way it
logic,
goes.
this one is not going to be hot.
It
because
said medium on the
So are you diving into this?
I am.
Vinny, do you have any?
I do.
Let's take it
Me and
first.
Vinny, because the other two were chicken to do it. So before I do this, though, I want to throw out some
You guys
notables.
chickened out on the medium?
These guys,
Oh, you got notables before you even get to
I
the
got
top 10.
notables because I had my top 3, but the bottom 3 were the hardest ones. And some
It was,
guys
it was who you had to leave out.
it's who I had to leave out.
I was talking to our buddy Lee Stevens, who writes the Destiny's Edge series.
Great series. Check them out on Amazon.
And he's in the middle of book 7. He's writing book 7. And we were talking about it. And he's like, the hardest part of this isn't what to write. It's what do I have to let go of.
Yes.
And this is kind of, you find yourself in almost an identical prediction.
Same thing. I'm basically a famous author right now.
Yeah. So what are the 3 notables that you had to leave off the list?
Some old school guys. It transcends decades. Petra.
Yeah.
Oh, they were good.
Yeah, they were, and they still are.
Yeah.
Are they alive?
They are.
Yeah.
Cutlass.
Also,
That was
Oh, man,
That was a tough decision for me.
But you made it.
I did. And PAX 217, and you're probably thinking
You
yourself-
left off PAX 217.
I did.
What?
Ultimately, PAX
Shocker.
217. PAX 217. They almost made it, but I was having to
They
go through.
got me through high school. bro.
Engage. Come on. Engage. Come on.
So I had to look through, like, I had to think back, like, what did I listen to? What CDs did I have? Who did I have the most CDs of? And
Hey, for those that don't know, PAX 217, legit, but it was our Christian version of 311.
little known fact, or if you watched any of my other Pepper Poppers, PAX 217 was a premier band that was featured in my top #1 Christian movie of all time.
Crossovers,
It is, yeah.
which was what movie?
That would be Extreme Days. Yep.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. All right. So those were your three. It was Petra, PAX 217, and
Cutlass.
and the Ragamuffin Man.
you know what? Like late 90s, early 2000s Creighton, Rich Mullins Ragamuffin.
So you left off.
A lot of bangers, but they didn't make my list because I was trying to separate what I listened to and what I listened to in
No
church.
5 Iron Frenzy.
5 Iron Frenzy was there.
Not even a notable.
A couple songs, but they've gone full like super left wing liberal.
What about DC Talk? I know 2/3 of them are pagans now.
A couple songs would have made it, but it was as a whole.
Okay.
And that's what I was going for.
You see, that's what makes this difficult.
News
Is not
Boys.
just bands that were Christian when they were making music and we loved it, but bands that have, I assume, you're
Basically,
factoring in.
I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, are you
Basically
factoring in
what I was
bands that have
criteria.
left the
This
faith?
is his own
Yeah,
interest.
Because one of
Basically-
my favorite bands of all time left the faith, and now it's like, man, I used to be able to just be able to say, go listen to these guys, they're solid, and now it's
Right.
like this, and this album, and then
Basically,
don't
what
listen
I
to
was
the
looking
last
for
one.
is when I create a playlist on like Spotify today, what bands consistently make those lists?
Amy Grant.
Sure.
Baby, I hate you.
All right, so to get started with
right.
my Ann's Tibetan hot
And
sauce,
Tibetan hot sauce. Hit it up.
let's go with it.
Creighton and I did this once, and it did not work out well for either of us. So
Yeah, I'm on some
Thoughts,
medication that
thoughts.
makes
What-
my stomach empty
That's a good
slow,
hot
and I'm
sauce.
not trying to take hot sauce like that.
I would put that on
I wouldn't even call it a hot sauce.
chicken and rice. That's a good chicken and rice.
Yeah,
Sauce.
good.
All right.
Not hot sauce. That's tomato sauce.
Number 10,
sorry, Ann. Verdict in
and that's just because I
the
can't.
Portland airport.
Let's catch up.
Number 10, and that's just because I can't figure out what Jake's band was the OC2 Supertones.
OC
O-
Supertones.
One of the
Supertone strike
ska.
back.
I love. It's not for everybody, but I love ska music.
I do too. It's happy.
I love ska music, and maybe
It has
that's
horns.
and now I'm kind of wondering.
I hate ska music, but I love the Supertones.
The Supertones, man, were legit.
Yeah, I love
I
the
saw
Supertones.
them multiple times.
I do
I'm
not
so
like
jealous.
ska at all.
Me neither.
and
but I like the Supertones.
I also like mariachi music.
Do you know, real quick,
And
Mexican
mariachi,
ska?
yeah, mariachi is just basically Mexican ska music.
do you know who the backup electric guitar player for Switchfoot ended up coming from?
No, I don't.
He was the guitar player for the Supertones.
Oh, this makes so much sense now.
He was the Asian guy. And you know what? Because I saw them both live.
Nice.
I was like, that's the same guy.
So the OC Supertones, also known as the Orange County Supertones, Orange County, California.
That's what the O and the C
Yeah,
stand for.
that's what it
Yeah.
stands for.
Groundbreaking here.
Breaking news. That's awesome.
Break-
That's
Breaking news.
They were a prominent Christian ska band from Orange County, California.
What?
Hence
Are
the
they from
O's.
Orange County?
Hence the OC, Orange County.
Gotcha.
They came up in the 90s and early 2000s, and that was about the time when I really started formulating my
Your musical
music
tastes?
Yeah, because I was in Florida in my early teens.
There's a lot of
and that's
oranges.
when they were really, really big. They started early 90s and they
To be
went
fair,
through the
Christian
2000s.
music, that's the one genre they dominated.
Yeah, it is true.
There was like the Brian Setzer Orchestra. There was a few like mainstream attempts, but like Christian music kind of cornered that niche market.
And I'm there for it.
I was too.
I love ska
Again, I
music.
saw the Supertones several times.
They strike back every time.
Oh,
I get it.
Yep, thanks. I thought
all right.
hated
Who
ska.
is so? That's 10.
Sorry.
Oh, we got some hot sauce
Hitting
ketchup
the back of my
hitting.
throat.
Ketchup.
Number 9. Zach had a little sneak peek at
peek.
my list here, and he was like, "Oh, that's surprising." A band that's been around for a while in the prominent Christian rock era, Audio Adrenaline. I love Audio Adrenaline. They have
Big house.
Right.
With lots and lots of rooms.
They've been around for a while. They had some really good hits, some number one hits in
When
the
you're
Christian
happy
area.
and you know it, bang your head. That was an
Again,
early song.
early 90s, early 2000s.
I've seen them
That's-
live. I saw them live as like an 11-year-old. First concert I ever went to was the Free at Last tour with DC Talk, and Audio Adrenaline opened for them, and Garden of Eden was the opening act.
Dang, that sounds awesome.
It was a Goatee Records special.
That sounds awesome.
It was. I had backstage passes and met Toby Mac.
Man,
You met Toby Mac?
Yeah, I knew his cousin.
I'm really
You
jealous.
know his cousin.
I know. We're gonna have to talk about this.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
I'm really jealous right now.
Dude, I've seen both bands on your list. I've seen.
All right. Audio Adrenaline, if you're looking for something for the kids, great band to start them out with. Especially Big House. Solid youth group music.
Oh, that's a solid youth group song.
Lots and lots of rooms.
Number 8.
And we can play football.
That's right. Number 8. Somewhat of a local band.
Oh.
Pretty local to the Atlanta area.
Small Town Poets.
I was just about to say that.
No, a little bit newer than that.
Oh.
These guys.
Chris Tomlin.
No, he's from Texas.
Oh.
These guys.
You're looking at me. Is it becoming the archetype?
No.
Oh.
These guys, they kind of hit that in between rock, punk, rap, EDM kind of feel to them. Family Force 5.
Family Force 5.
Yeah,
That is a great pull.
Yeah, they always find their way, at least one of their songs, into any of my
Dude,
playlists.
Family Force 5 is. If you haven't listened to Family Force 5, you should go check them out. They are. So there was. I'm going to steal a little bit of this.
You're jumping in hard.
there was
You
a
had your own
period-
camera angle, actually.
That's right. There was a period of time when I was in high school where Christian music was big in the secular world in like the punk and hardcore scenes, and Family Force 5 was a part of that. Isaac Dietz, who you know, Zach, did a few of their music videos. Do you remember Isaac Dietz?
Yeah.
He lived down near Andy.
Yeah.
Did a few of the great band. If you haven't listened to Family Force 5 and
Great
you're
band.
into anything like harder than Audio Adrenaline, check out Family Force 5.
See, I didn't. I of all the, I have no reference. I've never listened to a song.
they were pretty-
after my time.
Oh yeah.
And by that point, I'm into Rage Against the Machine and like good music.
Yeah, they're kind of early, really hit it big early 2000s.
Yeah.
The mid 2000s. But
I was
they
in
were
I was in
solid.
Bible college listening to Outkast.
Okay.
Yeah, no. When I
I'm
was
the
in,
guy in Bible college listening
when
to
I was
Outkast.
in high school, I could talk to people who if you said Jesus, they would make a hissing sound. I could talk to them about Family Force 5. That's how like Christian music was awesome. I'm pumped
Okay,
about
so
this.
so
bit.
so 10 was OC Supertones,
Right.
9 Audio Adrenaline,
Right.
8.
Family Force 5.
All right, so next week we get
My
the next.
next 3. Thanks again for joining me again, my little pepper poppers. I love you. Come back, see my next 3. We'll have another hot sauce to review too. Until next time, see you later.
All right, so we've got just a few minutes to try to wrap up our topic dealing with immigration. These guys are over here still like giggling about family force fight. There was a funny comment at some point before I segue. You guys, like, I had to ignore you. Somebody had posted something, and I got to get there.
Jamie said that. I gotta pull it.
You
back
guys
up.
were both
Yeah, I'm
giggling
trying
over
to find it
here.
right now.
I'm in the middle of trying to make a point and like trying to just ignore you guys off camera.
Trying to pull the comments back up.
Yo,
Let's see. So Jamie said,
Oh, wait, you know Scott, but not Letterman?
no, it was before that. He said, accidental incest sounds like a 90s grunge cover band from Alabama. And then he said they had to cover Pearl Jam for sure. That's what
Comment of the night.
That's what
that'll
we're
do
dying
it.
about.
That'll do it. That'll do it. All right, I want to talk about. Man, I got to think through for the sake of time, like how to condense this, because I'm going to make kind of a controversial argument with not a lot of time.
I mean, we don't have like a time limit. We're not going.
I know. I don't like yeah. So I want to try to address the why to all of this. Like, you look at the political spectrum regarding immigration, and it is so divided. I mean, and it is a very deep divide, a chasm. And you look at, I don't know, man, you look at these videos of these white liberal women like losing their mind over ICE agents that are going into neighborhoods to arrest child molesters. Like I get that there's some things that are happening where maybe some innocent people are getting caught in the crosshairs, but like those seem to get worked out. And like, this just seems to be like this deep, like it's a deep thing. Now, for the sake of argument, because I know that there's a whole segment of people that are gonna be like, yeah, well, yeah, they're reacting this way because they're communists and you're taking away their voting block and they're trying to protect their voting block. And like, there's an argument that will be made, like, the left doesn't actually care about these people at all. They care about protecting these people because they give them power because we've used them to vote illegally. Like, that's the argument that will be made primarily about the right to explain the motivation of the left. Oh, well, they're protecting these people because they're using these people to steal elections. And it's about power. And I'm not going to argue pros or cons with that. In fact, I just, for an exercise, bear with me, especially if you're on the right, because let's just try to like let that go for a moment. Let's just say that there is an altruistic perspective, that there is a group of people, and that they're very genuine when they're like, hey, this person was living in Honduras and the economy was terrible and they had no hope, no future. And so in an act of desperation, of survival, they couldn't wait through a lengthy process of migrating legally. They came to America purely in an act of desperation because they wanted to better themselves. They wanted to provide for their children. They wanted food to eat, shelter, a better life, a better future. And how can we, yes, they came here illegally, but how can we take that away? Because we're providing them a better life. And they're our neighbors as a result. They're not bad people. They're good people just trying to like make a life for themselves. Let's just, for the sake of argument, because I wouldn't entirely agree with that, side point, let's just say, okay, cool, that the motivation of the left regarding illegal immigration is based in an altruistic perspective of we're just trying to take care of poor people and support poor people making a better life for themselves. And how can we stand and say no? Now, how did we get to that? Because that ends up being a bigger question that no one wants to actually address. Like, how did we get to the point that, like, we were okay with millions of people coming into the West for a better life. Well, you do realize that that there is an absolute correlation, and this is where this is going to get complicated. There's an absolute correlation between the decline of colonialism and the mass influx of immigration into the West. The end of colonial empires disrupted economies, societies, political structures in the form of colonies across Africa, Asia, Middle East, Caribbean, creating push factors like instability, poverty, debt, conflict that drove people to seek opportunities, by the way, in their formal colonial powers or other Western nations. This correlation is supported by historical analysis showing that decolonization often led to massive waves of immigration, including repatriation of colonial settlers and their allies back to Europe, as well as long-term flows of newly independent states facing economic hardships imposed by lingering colonial legacies. What happened mid-20th century, post-World War II, there was the decolonization of European empires, the British, France, Belgium, Portugal, between the 40s and the 70s. It wasn't a smooth one. What often resulted was violence, partitions, economic exploitation, all kinds of unfair trade deals, debt burdens for international lenders, interventions, etc. Again, I could go on. What's fascinating. So we were taught in school. Again, I know this is controversial. I wish I had more time. We were taught, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, in school, that colonialism was an evil thing, right?
Yeah, I was homeschooled, so
maybe not.
I was public schooled. Yes, I was taught that colonialism was horrible and terrible, and they brought disease, and Columbus was a rapist. The whole deal.
And you reference Columbus. Like, I want to go broader than that. Obviously, Columbus, that was part of like Portuguese colonialism, finding other places. But like the British as a primary example, the British Empire spread out into all parts of the world, establishing colonial hubs in various places. Obviously, you had the 13 colonies. Spain did the same thing, from Cuba to various places within South America, the Dominican, other ventures. The British, I mean, you got like from South Africa. Well, South Africa was Dutch technically, but you had various places in Africa that were British colonial. You had massive influence in Calcutta, in India.
A lot of French in the islands.
You had the French in the islands. You also, but the British were like Hong Kong, like you had all the way to the Far East. Now, we were taught in school that, and again, the premise is that all cultures are equal, and that the evil Western Christian people were imposing their morality and way of living onto indigenous people that would have been way better off if they had no influence. The problem with that is that the data is contradictory to that. I want to just, and I'm going to broadly do this. There were incredible, like, here are the pros of colonialism. Like, just go to Gronk, Google it. You can find, I say, go to Gronk, Google. Two opposite things. Search it on your own. I'll give you a very quick 7 notable, documented, historical pros to colonialism you were never taught in school. Now, I will say there were cons to colonialism, but let's look at the benefits. 1, infrastructure and technological development. Colonial powers built expansive networks to support economic goals. They built railroads in India, over 40,000 miles, that included ports to Africa and Asia, that facilitated trade, mobility, later economic growth to places like Singapore, Hong Kong. These investments turned these cities into international economic hubs. None of that would have not happened apart from colonialism, British colonialism, building infrastructure and technological developments in the third world.
Well, I think you have to go even further than that, though.
Do you want to jump in now or hear more? It's up to you.
I'll hear a little bit more, but like, I was an archaeologist, so like I've studied various things, which included colonialism of previous world powers, and you start thinking of, like, in the general view of things, you start thinking of them as, oh, this was evil. But when you start looking at what they did, it's not as bad as we made it out to be.
So number 2, economic growth and trade opportunities. Colonialism introduced cash crops. Like, for example, it opened tea that was unique to India to a global market. Rubber from Malaysia to a global market. This boosted the GDP in the colonies and the countries that existed. British colonies often adopted property rights, banking systems. They fostered entrepreneurship. Post-colony studies show that former British colonies like India and Malaysia experienced higher long-term growth rates compared to non-colonized peers with the same metrics. Number 3, education and human capital improvement. Western-style schools, universities were established, often, by the way, by missionaries, that raised literacy from 0 to 10 to 20% in parts of India as reference. Like before the British colonized areas, there was a 0% literacy. What resulted was a 20% literacy, the ability to read. This created educated elites who, by the way, would lead independence movements in modernized societies. It also yielded English as a de facto language for global communication. Like, globalism would never have existed without English. How did English reach the world? It was through colonialism in Britain. 4th, healthcare, public health services. Modern medicine, sanitation, vaccines reduced disease across the world, like smallpox. In sub-Saharan Africa, colonial efforts lowered infant mortality from over 200 stillbirths per year to lower than 150 by the mid-20th century. Extended the documentation of life expectancy in these areas. Number 5, legal and administrative reforms. Imposition of bureaucratic systems, rule of law, anti-corrupt measures, built stable government frameworks. In fact, British common law is persistent in many of the former colonies and correlates to better economic outcomes today as opposed to countries that are founded on Islamic law or Sharia law. 6, social reforms and the abolition of harmful practices. Colonialism ended practices like sati, women immolation, in India. By the way, colonialism ended slavery in British territories via the 1833 Abolition Act, ended intertribal warfare in Africa, and promoted women's education and rights across the world. Lastly, cultural and scientific exchanges. It was through colonialism that you had the exposure globally to new ideas, sciences, technologies that accelerated innovation. For example, the spreading of the printing press, scientific methods included local intellectuals. So we look at, when we were taught colonialism was bad, 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 bad. Now, here's the point. Colonialism was based in the idea of taking Western morality, education, thought, practices into a global market. So we were taking them into other parts of the world, and the evidence is that, largely speaking, those parts of the world were bettered. The anecdotal evidence for that is that when colonialism died after World War II, and all of these various places became independent, what immediately transponded? Poverty. You remove colonialism, let's send Western culture to the third world to make their lives better. We remove that concept. And what immediately transpired? The third world moving to the Western culture for a better life. You guys kind of picking up what I'm putting down here?
Okay. I think you could even go one step further, at least in terms of. Now I don't know if I actually want to say what I'm thinking right now.
Go for it.
Which is the gosh dang the Indian reserves in America are weirdly backward. Like, a lot of them don't have running water or electricity, and I don't understand why they don't leave the reserve and assimilate into American culture because their lives would be better.
The first fallacy is that all cultures are equal.
Yes.
Can I take this biblical?
Yeah.
The Roman Empire.
Okay.
Christianity would not have spread if the Roman Empire had not existed.
That's at the Roman roads.
Roman roads, Roman society, Roman rule. As bad as some of the things were, the Roman language, as bad as some of them were, Christianity, the spread of Jesus being the Son of God and the Savior of the world, would not have spread if it had not existed a Roman colonial society.
So let me take this biblically one step further. So there's a truth here that there's a genuine desire, like we want to make people's lives better. I think it's a genuine desire for poor people to have opportunity, for sick people to have access to medicine, for illiterate people to have the gift of education, which is central to upward economic mobility. So the question is, how do you effectively care for the world's poor? Fundamental Western idea for 400 years, beyond Britain to France to Germany to Portugal to the Dutch, was let's share what we have with the rest of the world. Now, were there abuses to that? Sure. But the concept was, let's take this way of living and let's take it to their country and let's make their country better. Let's take our education, our science, our advancements, our language, our way of living, and let's take it to that culture. Let's let there be a measure of cultural distinction, but let's bring in and assimilate this way of living to make their lives better because it's proven. That was one strategy that for 400 years worked well because places across the world were developing and getting better. After World War II, that shifted. And we have places in the world that are now back into poverty, which has forced what? Those people to come to the West for what they are now been robbed of. They're gravitating to the same thing. So we have this idea of open immigration. Why? Because we've said colonialism was bad. When colonialism, like open immigration destroys your like there is no good, like it destroys it all. Like my point is like there was this drastic shift in thinking that resulted in this mass migration from the third world to the first world, when the only strategy that works is to take the first world to the third world and better the world. The multiple faceted. Now, let's tie it all together. This does tie into biblical ideas. Because within the Old Covenant, it was a very centralized concept. It was, you want to encounter God, how do you do that? You come to Israel. You come to the temple. You come here. But Jesus flipped that all. Like this whole immigration thing. Well, we want to be like Jesus. Well, what did Jesus say? Don't come to the temple anymore. Instead, Jesus sent everyone out. It was Christian colonialism. Go into the world and make disciples of the nations, baptizing them in the name of Jesus Christ. It was to go out. You see, what the missionary movement is actually the remedy to the immigration problem. It is, in its own way, a reverting back to colonialism. Because the only entity in the world that is still sending representatives into the third world, yes, with the gospel, but what also comes with it? Education, medicine, practical benefits. Like we have a dear friend that was been a missionary for years in Honduras and partnered with another beautiful saint that was there to do what? Yes, share the gospel, but to teach local Hondurans how to make guitars out of the exotic wood that they had. Like liberals want to say we're the ones that have a heart for the poor. You have a heart for the poor. That's a bad strategy. That doesn't work. When you're blaming the church for something that actually is a proven strategy that's successful. Don Lemon went into, of all places, City's Church. Now, City's Church is fallen into the same trap of Baptists hiding their Baptistism. It is a Southern Baptist Convention church. That, admittedly, which means that church gives 10% of their tithes and offerings to the Southern Baptist Convention's IMB board. That's the International Missions Board. Ironically, meaning that church is sending 10% of their money to support the 3,600 missionaries that are presently serving in more than 155 countries. What the heck are you doing, Don Lemon, to reach the poor people of the world? Because City Church, who you called white supremacists and all kinds of bad names, they're doing more than you could ever imagine to take care of the poor immigrant in this world. How dare you, Don Lemon, you're a demon. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys have anything you want to add to that, or is that just a good place to end it? I know
That was such a strong ending.
we've already rolled the music. It's rolling, so we're just tapping out. Hey, thanks for joining us for the Outlaw Radio Show. Live Wednesday nights, X, Facebook, most notably YouTube, outlawradio.live. If you're watching, this all gets released as a podcast, Apple, Google, and Spotify. It gets released tomorrow, so check that out. Check out the podcast. Thanks for joining us. Join us next Wednesday at 8 p.m. God bless. We're out.